Okay, so here's what you're going to get when you get a T-Max to install on a Nova Thor bed. So the first part that you're going to get when you open up your box is going to be the actual timer that sits out at the front desk. In that case, there's going to be a power cord, a communications cord, and a secondary, and all the screws for the T-Max to actually attach to the box. The second thing you're going to get is the power injector for the wireless antenna, a cord with that, and a plug to plug into the wall back by the bed. So these parts will all go by the bed. You're going to get two antennas, two. These are the wireless antennas. So one of them is going to go with the T-Max unit to start out with. The other one is going to plug into this power injector so that I can wirelessly communicate with this. The last thing that you're going to get is this box here. And we're going to show you quick how all of this goes together so that you can install one of your own. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do when we install these is install the piece that's going to go out back at the back of the bed. So what that consists of is this power injector and one antenna. So what we can do is we're going to go ahead and open that up and get those pieces set out so you can see. All right, so what I have here is the cable that plugs between the antenna and the top side of this, the power plug to plug it into the wall, the smaller cord, which is going to go from the bottom side of this injector to the actual bed, and then one antenna that's going to go. So here's how everything is going to hook up. So you'll notice in the top side of this thing, there's actually a small port with two ports to plug the power supply into. And on the bottom side, there's one larger port, and that's it. That's on the bottom there. So you're going to go ahead and in the larger side, plug in your larger cord, and it will just click right in there. Okay. And then the other side of that cord plugs into this antenna here. And then you're going to plug your power cord and this other black cord into the top side here. Okay, so here's what it looks like when it's all hooked together. Wireless antenna is plugged in with the gray cord. It has the larger RJ45 connectors on it. So you can see that is plugged into the bottom side there. And the top side of this T-Max power injector is your power. And it doesn't matter which port you plug in for power. That's not a big concern. And then this black cord, which has a much smaller diameter connector on it. And that is what's going to plug into one of the two ports on the back of the bed. So when it's all connected, that's what it looks like all run together. Okay, so now we're on the back of the Nova Thor unit. You can see this is the overall Nova Thor unit, right? This is the back side. What we are going to do is with the small black cord that we had, we're just going to take that right there and plug it in. Okay, and it can go into either of those two smaller ports on the bed and function correctly. And then obviously you plug the 120 volt into the wall, and this portion is done for the connection and install. Okay, so here are the parts and pieces that are going to come with the actual T-Max front control panel. Obviously, antenna, it's the same thing that we just connected into the back of the bed with a gray cord, okay, and those two are going to plug together. Yet a 4-square gang box that the base unit here is actually going to sit in and connect to. And that has a little 120 plug that's already connected in to it. We're going to have to unconnect that to get it to run through these two holes in the box here and then reconnect it back in. You get some plugs for these back little holes here, and you also get little feet so that this doesn't slide if it's sitting on a smooth desk. You get the 4 screws that are going to hold the outside of this plate to this box, and then you get this black 50-foot cord, which we aren't going to use because we're using the wireless connection. If you wanted to, you could hardwire this timer straight through to the bed timer, but because we're going wireless, we're just going to leave this with the customer or throw it away. It's not a big deal. It just comes with the package. All right, let's start off with the T-Max timer bezel. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this, and you can either stick your flathead screwdriver. You can stick your flathead screwdriver right in the bottom of that, and this whole thing will just pop out off of this bezel here. So you separate that out. Now, this box is actually slanted, okay? And what you want to do is you want it to slant back towards the user. So when you get this frame off the back of the T-Max thing, you'll notice on it, it actually says top on it, right? And that top is going to go towards the high side. And then the other side, the slimmer side of the box is actually going to be the bottom. Just so when you set this on a desk, it's actually tapered down towards the user. Then we're going to take these 4 screws and install them in this box. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so this is the back side of that T-Max timer. This is the desk unit where the user will actually put in how many minutes they want to run the unit. So the 2 things that we have to take off of this white plug has to come out because that's where our antenna is going to plug into on the board. Okay, so right there in that port, we're going to plug our antenna on. These 2 cords also have to come out and then get fed through the back side of this box along with the gray cord for our antenna. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll plug everything back in. So just remember, your antenna is going into the port that already has an empty terminal in it, so you'll have to remove that first, and then we want to unhook these 2 power supplies and then rehook them back up. Okay, so you can see through the back side of my box, I have my power cord and my antenna cord, okay? And so I'm going to plug them. You can see I've removed this little plastic connector. I've removed that from that port, and that's where I'm going to plug my antenna in, and then I'm going to rewire back in my power as well. All right, now you can see that I have my wires coming through the back side of my box and through the frame, and they're both connected in. So there's my antenna coming in, and then my power into my box. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to take the T-Max timer, and with orienting it towards the top, we're just going to take it and we're just going to clip it right down in there. Okay, so it's just going to go, and I'll just push flush in there. And that whole box will just snap together. And now you have your wires coming out the back, and your T-Max timer is all set up. So the last thing that we need to do is take our antenna that we have, and obviously we have our wire coming out of our box, right? And we're just gonna plug our antenna right into this box. So that will just go in. Okay, and we'll just click in and set him. There you go. And the last thing that we can do is install these little plastic feet on the back of the box, just to keep it from sliding around the desk. Okay, so what order do we want to install this in? So we have our T-Max, and we have our nice desk here where the end person is going to do it. So we obviously want to wind our cords around so that they're hidden. We're going to take our T-Max and plug it in first, and you'll see it boot up with the 10 on there, and this antenna will start looking for the other antenna to communicate in. And while it can't communicate, it's going to beep and blink that green-red light because it's looking to communicate with the bed. Okay? And it will keep going through this process until it finds the actual antenna. So now we're going to go out to the bed and plug that in and show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is our bed out here. We're going to plug the auxiliary antenna that we had before into this bed. The biggest, most important thing right now is to make sure that this bed is off, or this T-Max system will not start communicating. So we're leaving it off to start out with here, and then I'll show you what happens when we plug the antenna in and get it up and running. Okay, so now we have this plugged into the back of the bed right here. Like I said, you can go to either of these ports. And now what we want to do is we want to fire up our power injector and our antenna down here. So we got a cord. We'll just go ahead and plug that in. See, the power injector will come on with a red light, and the antenna itself will come on, and it will start by blinking red, and then once it's connected, it will just stay with that blinking red, meaning that the T-Max timer is connected, and it's looking for the actual bed to start being powered up. So it's got communication going back and forth. It's just looking for the bed, okay? So we're gonna turn the bed on. Go to the front of the unit, and what we're gonna do is turn the bed on, which is just twisting this little red E-stop, and it's gonna go through its normal cycle procedure, okay? And it's gonna get to 0. And what you're gonna notice now is that instead of being able to hit the set limit button and set minutes on the bed, you're gonna notice that it goes OL, okay? So they cannot start the bed, they can't do anything back from here. It's all controlled by the T-Max timer. Okay. Now that that bed is on, and you can see that there is one red light that's solid on that unit, and there's a blinking green light, which means communication's going back and forth between the units. Okay, now we're back at the main desk counter, and you can see the antenna up here is doing the exact same thing. It's got one red light and one flashing green and red light as it communicates back and forth with the bed. The user now can set minutes from here. If they hit the up arrow, they can go minute by minute, and each one of those increments is 1 minute, so the bed's set to 6 minutes. If they go down to the down arrow, this will go to 20 minutes, which is the max time that the bed can run for before shutting off. And then what can happen is if the user presses the start button, you'll see that it brings up 3 minutes. That's a delay timer for, we call it the undress timer. So as the person checks in and gets back to the room, it gives them 3 minutes to get into the bed and get going. If they would like less time on the undress timer, I will show you how to do that. But stock coming out of the factory, they'll all be set to 3 minutes. If they want the user to get into the unit prior to the 3 minutes, they can do it by just pushing the start button on the outside of the unit, and I'll show you that right now. We come out here to the unit, and you can see it's still got that 3 minute delay timer kicking in. So let's say the person's quicker than 3 minutes, right? They get all undressed, they're ready to get in the bed. What do? Because they don't want to wait the countdown. That's fine, they can get in the bed, they can close the lid, and they can hit the power button right here. And that will go to whatever they set the T-Max timer for, and the bed will kick on and start running. Okay, so let's say they're unhappy that that T-Max timer runs for 3 minutes, and they want it 0 minutes, or they want it 5 minutes. It's very easy to reset. What you do is you press and hold the up arrow and the start and stop arrow at the same time until you see it flash P. P means that you're in the parameter settings, and the first number that you see is the parameter that you're looking to set. So for the undress timer, that's parameter 3 that we're looking to go for. So you're going to hit the up arrow twice, and that's going to bring you to the parameter 3. You're going to hit the start stop button. You'll see it start flashing 3. And that is how many minutes it's going to take for the undress timer. So you can either go up, you can set it to 7 minutes, you can go down and set it to 0 minutes. So we're going to set this to 1 minute for this example, okay? Now when you're all done, you want to hit the start stop button, right? And then to get out of the parameters, you press and hold the up and down arrow, and that will reset the T-Max, and it will go back to 10. And when it's ready to function, it will go back to 0, okay? And you've just reset it. So now, when we add our time up here at the counter to 6 minutes, right? And then we start it. Now we have an undress timer of 1 minute. And then the unit will kick on after that 1 minute delay cycle.